God of War series is a fan favorite among many PlayStation gamers. Developed by Santa Monica Studios and published by Sony, these games have gone on to receive praise from casual gamers and critics. Recently, I had the opportunity to play through God of War 1, 2, and Ascension for the first time. Now let's ask the big question. Is it worth playing the God of War games, specifically the Greek mythology ones? Well, before we dive into that loaded question, I should first explain my history with this franchise and similar games. Since I was a young lad, I've always been super interested in the Force Unleashed games. Play very similar to these. Super buffed up character with crazy weapons in their arsenal. That's probably one reason why years later I ended up doing speedruns on the game and got an in-game time of less than 10 minutes. Years ago when I just acquired a PS4, I played through God of War 3 and Bloodborne. That initial playthrough is awesome looking back on it. Since then, I've always wanted to go back and play through the other games, since I just played the end of it. When I was at uni, besides the science courses I needed, I also took a few Greek mythology and tragedy classes for general electives. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I enjoy the setting a lot. In this video, I'll be talking about my experiences with each game, which were the best, favorite moments, and so on. If you're interested in seeing these games and my first playthrough of them, check out the VODs channel. Here I post full unedited streams. Thank you for the continued support. Now let's get into the video. Initially, I started with God of War HD since it is the first game in the series. This was such an amazing experience. With this Is It Worth video, I'll be doing things a bit differently. Usually in this series, I'll attempt to play through these games for the first time, then get 100% regarding achievements or trophies. Jedi Survivor, Expedition 33, and so on are some of the many examples. This time around, I wanted to purely have fun and experience these games as they were meant to be played. Because of this, I found myself getting immersed in these worlds and story, more so than if I was meticulously grinding for each trophy. I figured I would get that out there. Each of these games I went through on the second hardest difficulty. That's the God of War 3 playthrough, which I will talk about at the end. This way I could experience the challenge of the game without bashing my head in, since ultimately I am quite new to the series. I'll be saying a few things that I enjoyed about each game, and at the end, we'll say anything I disliked. The first game had the awesome interactions with the gods bestowing Kratos with more and more power as we went through the game. Each interaction felt epic, whether it was Poseidon or Hades. You knew you were gonna get some powerful stuff. The music slaps so hard. The grand nature of Pandora's temple, the epic fighting music. Each time I listened to the soundtracks, it brought joy to my ears, especially compared to the later games. Music is really impactful in conveying either emotion, magnitude of an event, and so on. These games handle them quite well, especially when you just go to Pandora's temple for the first time. I compared these games to the Force Unleashed earlier, the boss battles, stacked main character. Pretty much all of these games have mini bosses and bosses often. They're not crazy in your face like DS2. The first game and onwards of the God of War series do not disappoint. Pandora's temple will forever be the most memorable section of the game. The interconnectedness and awe of this area is awesome. Definitely brought back some DS1 and Bloodborne memories. I know some players really dislike this section, but for me it was the opposite. I'd be really interested to know your thoughts down below. Now if there's one thing that I would have to complain about is holy heck, they made the final boss fight be insanely difficult. While Ares is straightforward, defending his wife and kid is not. I'm not exaggerating when I say this took me around like 20 to 30 plus tries. Mind you, this is on the second hardest difficulty and it's my first playthrough ever. It's one area I wouldn't wish my worst enemy to play. Can't even imagine it on the hardest difficulty. It was so satisfying at the end to become the God of War. When I think of my overall enjoyment from my first playthroughs on these games, God of War 2 is easily at the top of the list. While the first game had the awesome soundtracks and awe-inspiring moments like Pandora's temple, the second game tops all of that. Kratos being betrayed by Zeus and most of Olympus, he sets his sight on the Fates, hoping to rewrite his destiny. Everything that I really loved about the third game started here, meeting legendary warriors such as Prometheus, Theseus, Perseus, and Icarus, and then slaying them. Though in the third, it's the rest of the gods. Busted encounters. Yeah, certain sections were so brutal, but were rewarding as heck. To me, that one Cerberus fight was exactly that. Really enjoyed that this is when Kratos and Gaia's interests align, so they team up for the time being. Ultimately, Kratos is imbued by the rage of the Titans, and ooh, was that insanely cool. More so than using the Blade of Olympus, in my opinion. Interactions with enemies gets a whole lot more bloody and gory in this and the subsequent games. First game obviously had blood and gore, but not to this degree. As I enjoyed the Saw movies, I can't say I didn't like the improvement to the game. The end area as a whole was epic as hell, but really challenging. In the end, it was sad to see Kratos stab Athena when Zeus was so close to death, but obviously we have a third installment to play afterwards, which concludes the games. In the end, this was my favorite first playthrough between the first game, this, and Ascension. It made the player feel epic, the story was entertaining, dialogue was voiced with passion, and the fighting, the cherry on top. Now, I did have one minor criticism for this game, which is that the abilities that Kratos gets are much more lackluster than the other games, especially coming from the first. God of War Ascension has to be one of the more interesting games of the series, and to me, my least favorite. While it did have an overall cool premise, Kratos hunts down the Furies who imprisoned him, ultimately learns the truth. It had the worst combat of the series. One thing that was awesome about the previous games is that enemies, even the big and chunky Cyclops, will still get staggered when dealt massive damage. This would go to show how powerful Kratos is, alongside letting the player breathe a bit. This game throws all of that out the window. Even the common ad won't get staggered, and so these ultimately prove to be more annoying than the bosses themselves. But I did enjoy the idea of infusing Kratos' weapon with the power of lightning for Zeus, water for Poseidon, and so on. They were subpar even to God of War 2's abilities. In the second game, the player gets a time stone alongside them being able to briefly manipulate time. This game has a much cooler version though. Objects and people can be healed or decayed. Whenever I had to interact with one of these, it really made me feel like a small kid inside, waiting and excited for what's to come next. Another thing that I enjoyed about this game was the statue of Apollo, climbing up it, and ultimately repairing the whole thing with the stone of Ouroboros. While this is the worst game in the series in my opinion, doesn't mean it's completely worthless. To me, it just doesn't feel as fun as the rest of the series. Kratos feels weak, and enemies are absurdly aggressive / don't stagger. I could and would talk about this game for hours and hours, really talking about what I disliked about it, but I want to give you the opportunity to play through these games for the first time and experience it for yourself. I'm sure there are other Xbox people that have recently started to main the PlayStation, as Microsoft has been failing the consumer. Maybe a video idea in the future of how Microsoft was a juggernaut that failed us. God of War 3 is my favorite, as it was one of the first games I played when I got my PS4 years ago. After completing the first playthroughs of the first, second, and Ascension, it's sad to go back to where it all started for me, this time playing it on the hardest difficulty. Originally, I was planning to make a full-on challenge run for this, as it was extremely difficult. I found myself debating on whether or not you, the viewers, would find it entertaining. Regardless, if you would like to see the full challenge, head over to the VOD channel to find full streams and highlights. Last thing I'll say is that with everything leading up to this game, devs and team really put their heart and soul into this project. After beating the hardest difficulty, which felt amazing, I decided to go into the extras menu and listen to the behind the scenes talk. I spent most of it watching just how they designed and implemented Poseidon as a boss fight, and man, you can tell just how much care each step of the process had. These people enjoyed what they were making, compared to some of the games and studios nowadays shoving crap down the developers' throats. Now we need to answer the big question. Is it worth playing these games? I would say yes. Whether you are looking for a fun single player game, or maybe want to challenge yourselves on the hardest difficulty, these games will not disappoint. While each game has their pros and cons, overall the series will provide fun and a good story. Personally, I'd avoid Ascension. Which game was the best? Hands down God of War 3, but out of the first playthroughs, the second game. Both the second and third had the player go through epic trials and tribulations that felt so satisfying. Which game was the worst? Without a doubt, Ascension. It did have some really neat areas and mechanics, but to me fell short in all of the categories. This is one game I will not be replaying for a long time, if ever. Then compare that to the first, second, and third, which just thinking about it makes me want to start another playthrough. Favorite moments. I think becoming the God of War in the first game was my favorite moment. The joy of completing the game and seeing Kratos become a literal god was unmatchable. Tough moments. I think there were so many tough moments spread about these games that it's hard to narrow down the most challenging. Good contender would be Kratos defending his family in the first game. Do I plan to play the fourth and fifth games? No, personally I was never interested in Norse mythology. I prefer Greek, Roman, and Egyptian mythology the most. While I have heard amazing things about the story in those games, the combat really took me out of the God of War experience, and so I only touched it for a few hours. Be curious to hear your experiences with these games. Are they actually good? Did I actually try playing them again? I'm interested to see your feedback. The God of War series has been around for 2 decades, and in that time has brought joy to many gamers across the world. From entertaining story to the insane boss fights, these games have a lot to offer. If you haven't played these games before and have a PlayStation, I would highly recommend you give them a try. Depending on the reception of this video, I'd like to 100% these games. So if you guys would like, I can go through them You can see all the joy and pain that 100% run brings. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps to support the channel and push the video to others who might enjoy it. Try to do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture. This is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.